It's time for the Splash Live from Civic Center TV, featuring stories from and about people like you in the greater West Bloomfield area. Simulcast on cable, 89.3 Lakes FM, social media, and the web. Now live from Green Media Center on Walnut Lake Road, it's the Splash Live.
Live, local, social, it's the Splash Live on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. I'm your host, Jake Sheff, going over all of the biggest news and events from right here in Greater West Bloomfield. We're going to kick off the show by tackling some national news as recent aviation incidents all across the nation are putting extra eyes on air traffic control and their pilots. The Federal Aviation Administration is investigating a near miss between a private jet and a Southwest Airlines plane Tuesday morning in Chicago. You can see some footage right now on our screen if you're watching on Civic Center TV. But the video shows that Southwest Flight 2504 nearly touching down at Midway International Airport before taking off again to avoid a jet that was crossing its path on the runway. The FAA said the jet entered the runway without authorization, prompting the Southwest crew to initiate what's called a go-around to avoid a collision. The airline confirmed in a statement that the flight landed safely at Midway after the precautionary manner, but still a very scary situation, and it seems as though it's just the latest in a recent series of aviation accidents and mishaps that has had some travelers unnerved and anxious. Here to tell us more and to share his perspective on these recent mishaps, we have local pilot Joe Cook joining us right now on The Splash. Joe, good morning.
Good morning.
Happy to have you with us and happy to be getting into this very, very important conversation with all of the recent news surrounding these air traffic mishaps. What has your reaction been to everything you've seen?
Well, there's been a string of accidents that have been very highly publicized, but we have to keep in context just how rare these accidents really are. There was the accident, the mid-air collision over the Potomac, which, unfortunately resulted in the loss of 60 lives. But prior to that, the last fatal event in a commercial airline was back in 2019 when one person was killed on a Alaska flight that overran the runway. And then prior to that, I believe it was 2012, there was a regional turboprop crash in Boston, which resulted in a loss of life. And it also resulted in significant changes in training regulations through the FAA and sleep regulations, that sort of thing. So I know these kind of events concern people, and rightfully so, but they're news splashes, and I think they should be kept in context with the fact that while we're having this several-minute conversation, there's probably 5,000 airplanes take off and land around the world, and it happens every hour without any incident.
That's certainly right. These incidents are very rare, and it's just surprising to see so many of them publicized in this way. Do you think the reason that so many are being publicized right now is because it's because of the initial incident and it's just becoming more and more common to talk about?
Certainly. After the crash over the Potomac, then there was the Delta incident at Reagan, and then there was that midair out in Arizona, and certainly the midair in Arizona probably wouldn't have even got national coverage if it hadn't been for the concern that's going on over aviation safety right now. It's a news cycle, and people want to hear it, and that's not to minimize whatsoever the tragic events that have happened. But
of course,
if you look at the DOT information, Department of Transportation information, your chance of dying in an aircraft accident are about, let's say I wrote it down here, 1 in 13.7 million, which if you're the one is unfortunate, but it's certainly the safest way to travel. If you compare it to driving, 95% of the transportation fatalities that happen throughout the year happen driving. About 1% over a long period of time happen in aviation. Clearly the safest way to fly. I've been flying small airplanes for 50 years, and I'm currently training pilots out at Troy Airport there at Coolidge in 15. And I've got over 3 million miles on Delta, so I'm in those airplanes quite a bit, and I'm not concerned about it. I'm taking my 8-month-old daughter to Philadelphia next month on a commercial flight on Delta, and I wouldn't be doing it if I felt there was a risk.
That's absolutely right. You have a lot of experience in this world of air traffic control and with piloting planes. And as a commercial pilot who sometimes flies around other jets in the air, what is the protocol for navigating shared airspace?
Well, the key word there is that it's shared airspace. A guy landing at Pontiac or Metro or anywhere else in a four-seat Cessna has got the same right to be doing that as a Delta, A330 or something. Now, from a practical standpoint, most pilots, if they're just going to go out and practice shooting landings, aren't going to go to Metro. They're going to go to maybe Pontiac or Flint, something like that. But as far as the communication that they use between ground control and the tower and center and the various type of communication outlets that pilots use, everybody's got the same right to be there, and they do mix, and they mix well. And most guys that are flying small airplanes are aware of the fact that the logistics and the requirements for 737 are different than for a Cessna 172, and they take that into consideration when they're planning their flights and where they're going to go. Generally, if I flew a small airplane back from Florida last week, and I made a point of making my stops at smaller non-towered airports rather than going into Atlanta or Chattanooga or somewhere like that.
Yes, very interesting information and good to have this perspective. And I would imagine, because I'm certainly not a pilot, I would imagine being in that situation as you're flying that plane and hearing all these multiple perspectives as you're navigating the air, it can be a bit challenging. What is it like to be managing all of these things at once as you're operating commercial aircraft?
If somebody that isn't involved in aviation tunes into one of the internet sites where you can hear aircraft communications, either from ground or tower or center, it can sound, yes, very confusing. And how could anybody ever understand what they're saying? But if you're an experienced pilot and you've flown in that kind of airspace before, when you're contacted by air traffic control, ATC, you kind of anticipate what they're going to say. And so you kind of know what to expect. And if there's confusion, then you tell them to repeat or to clarify, and nobody's going to criticize you for doing that or think that you're not a smart pilot. If there's any confusion, they certainly want you to make that known. For example, that it was that on this recent Midway situation, the aircraft that caused the incursion was what's called a fractional jet, a small business jet that people could rent by the hour, basically. He was leaving the spot where he picked up his passengers, got his taxi clearance, and you get that from what's called ground control. They're controlling all the movement of the airplanes on the ground. And there was some confusion about it, and he asked for a clarification. The ground controller gave him the proper clarification, but he didn't do what he was told to do. He was told to taxi. At Midway, they have parallel runways like many airports. So he was told to taxi past runway 31 left, and hold short of 31 center where the Southwest plane was landing. And he just didn't do it. He taxied straight across. It was just, if he was distracted or he didn't understand, it's kind of hard to say it. I'm sure as they're researching the communication, they will be able to determine that. What I think I would like to add to that is the real kudos should go to the Southwest pilots on this, because go-arounds are not particularly unusual. But typically what will happen is, because you can only have one airplane on the runway at a time. So even if a guy's at the end of the runway and about ready to turn off, if he's not completely off the runway, the other airplane can't land. So what will typically happen is maybe the guy that's already on the runway is slow getting off the runway, or the guy coming in is coming in a little fast, and they have to have a certain amount of separation. The tower will tell the approaching airplane to take off and go around, just come around the pattern once and land again. In this case, it was the Southwest pilots that initiated the go around. So they saw that there was an incursion. They saw this guy was crossed the runway in front of them. So without being directed by the tower, they just initiated the go around. So they were on their toes. And because in that segment of flight, it's very easy to be directed at what you're doing and looking at your instruments and preparing for the landing, but they were keeping their spatial orientation intact. They saw the airplane and they did the go around and saved a possible tragedy.
That's absolutely right. Those Southwest pilots were heroes and did the absolute right thing in helping get that plane to land safely. And Joe, you have a lot of experience with commercial planes, but you also have experience flying seaplanes, and those can be
Right.
very different. What are some of the biggest differences in operating seaplanes and operating commercial airlines?
Well, when you're operating, like when I own an amphibious aircraft, which I probably have annoyed some people over on Walled Lake and Orchard Lake by practicing. I go over there and practice landings. The difference is when you're landing, like out of Troy Airport or Pontiac Airport, you're taking off on a runway that's not changing. It's concrete, and you're taking off the same runway every time you go. Where when you're landing on a lake or any body of water, the water is different. The wind's coming from different directions. It's causing ripples. It's causing various waves from boats and from the wind itself. And the other concern always is that at an airport, you pretty much know and you can see very well who's on the runway or who's approaching the runway, or if you're landing at a controlled field, they're going to tell you who's approaching the runway and if you're cleared to land. When you're landing on a lake, you've got paddle boarders and other boats and although a lot of other activity, so it can be a bit more challenging making sure that everything's safe. But the actual operation of the airplane, once you're off the ground, it flies pretty much like any other airplane. Just it's one of those airplanes you can land on the water more than once.
Well, it's very fascinating to hear about all of these differences, and very fascinating to hear about your perspective on these recent mishaps that have happened all across America. Joe, one more quick question before we let you go. What are some of the biggest safety perspectives that people can look at with observing these recent mishaps?
Well, I think they should keep in mind that statistically, clearly, aviation is the safest way to fly. You're much more inclined to be in a car accident than you are in an aircraft accident. I read one statistic one time that if the day you were born, if you flew every minute while you were alive, you'd be involved in an aircraft accident when you were 54 years old. So it would be nice if we could say that absolutely, you get on an airplane, you're going to get where you want to go without having any problems. That's probably not realistic, but certainly people should not be apprehensive about getting on an airplane due to the recent and well-publicized string of aviation events that have occurred. And again, if one that happens is a tragedy and we hate to see it happen, but the reality of our life and our world is that sometimes things are going to happen, and it's unfortunate, but always keep in mind that the pilot is the guy that's making the guy in the left seat is the guy that's making the ultimate decision. And if there's an accident, he's going to be the guy that gets there first. So he wants to make sure that it's going to be a safe flight.
Very reassuring words. Joe Koch, we thank you so much for your time and joining us today on the Splash Live.
Thank you.
Very important to be getting these perspectives on these recent air traffic mishaps that have been taking place all across America. But we really appreciate Joe for coming by the Splash to explain his perspective on everything that's been going on. Lots of other great events taking place right here in the greater West Bloomfield community that's going to be coming up very, very soon. One of which will be the Detroit Red Wings alumni game to raise funds for the research of cerebral palsy. The Red Wings alumni will be facing off against a local hockey team known as the MIUCP Pucksters. UCP stands for United Cerebral Palsy. That game is going to be taking place on Saturday, March 15th at the St. Mary's Arena in Orchard Lake. And here to tell us more about this very exciting event coming very, very soon to Greater West Bloomfield, we have a board member with Michigan United Cerebral Palsy, Mike Ward, joining us right now on the Splash. Mike, great to have you with us.
Good morning. How are you today?
I am great and really happy to be talking with you about this incredible event that's coming up in March. What does it mean to you personally to be a part of such a unique and impactful event like the MIUCP charity hockey game?
Well, we've been doing this now for 22 years. This will be our 23rd game. We actually started it in 2000. We took a couple years off for when COVID was reigning. But this event has really not only helped us from a financial standpoint, the organization, but it has created a ton of awareness for what our agency does in terms of our work with people who have cerebral palsy. But 65% of the people that we offer assistance to in the state of Michigan have a disability other than or in addition to cerebral palsy. So that's 2.3 million Michiganders who live with a disability. So that's why this event is such a big one for us.
Wow, it's awesome to hear of the impact that you guys are having on so many people here in Michigan. And having done this event for 23 years, I'd imagine that there have been a lot of things you've seen from this event and how it's grown in that time period. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, when we first began, it was just a game between some guys who played beer league hockey and the Red Wing alumni. And over the years, we've grown it so that each player who is on our roster, they basically create a website profile on our fundraising platform, and they raise money. And about 10 years ago or 15 years ago, we began adding sled hockey to the event. And sled hockey is played by athletes who have a disability that does not allow them to use their legs. So they can use their arms to propel them. And it's an amazing sport. And so we have a group of able-bodied athletes who get in sleds and participate with sled players from the Bell Tire sled hockey program out of Taylor, Michigan. And they are phenomenal. They provide us sleds and they provide their players, and we mix them up so that our players can be right there on the ice with these tremendous athletes, and there are some youth players and some adult players. So that has really added to the event over the years. But the big draw is always the Red Wing alumni, and we've had such great support over the years from players like Mickey Redmond, Darren McCarty, Joel Kosher. We've had Igor Larionov at the game. We've had Dino Cicerelli has played several times, and then regulars like Johnny Ogrodnik. We've had Red Berenson. So we get lots of great names, and that's part of the draw for people to come out and see these guys basically beat our beat our team. We're 0-21-1.
Oh, no.
We tied 1 year. We tied 1 year at the last minute, and we tied 10-10. The games are pretty competitive. In the last few years, we've tried to stack our roster to to give ourselves a decent chance. But these alumni, they're so good, they're so skilled, and when they want to, whenever we get close, they just turn it up a notch, and we basically don't stand a chance.
I can only imagine what must have been going through everybody's heads on that game when you actually did tie a bunch of former Red Wings players. That must have felt incredible. But how do the players for both the UCP Pucksters and the Red Wings alumni get involved with fundraising like this? And why is it so important to meet individual fundraising goals?
So to meet individual fundraising goals is basically so important for an agency like ours, because we depend on fundraising dollars in addition to grants to provide advocacy, benefits counseling. We provide assistive technology. We provide portable wheelchair ramps for those who need it, things like that. So the fundraising goals are always something that we have to keep a close eye on, and that's a year-round thing for us. It just as as funding for different nonprofits have become more competitive, this is one of the events that we depend on to raise funds for our operating expenses. And then, in terms of getting involved, we have a great website, which is mi-ucp.org/hockey. And you can go on there, you can see all the players that are playing. And if you want to make a donation to any of them, or if you just want to donate to the event itself, there's a link there. But come out to the event. It's actually free. It's at the St. Mary's Arena in Orchard Lake, which is a beautiful rink. So the event is free. The doors open at 4:30. The first sled game is on at 5 o'clock. And then at 7 o'clock, the alumni take on the My UCP Pucksters. And we always do a bit of a parody jersey for an old NHL team. And this year we took on the old Whalers jersey. So it's the My UCP Pucksters. And we'll have things like 50-50 tickets there that we're going to be selling. And Chuck a Puck, which is you buy a puck for $5, and then at the break, everybody lines up on the side of the boards and throws them out, and whoever gets closest to the center dot will win either Red Wing tickets, Tiger tickets, $150 gift certificate from the Mitten State T-shirt company, or several other prizes. We've got lots of fun things throughout the event. And here's what the puck looks like. There's that. And I have to thank my one of our friends, one of our players, Rich Summers, sponsored the pucks. And we had another sponsor, the White Lake Police Foundation, sponsored our jerseys. So that's part of how we offset any costs that we might have for this event, is we get sponsors, and we have donor advertising, MGM Grand Detroit, Cargill, Domino's is providing the food that we'll have for the players in the Afterglow upstairs, which is a small gathering that for our players that we like to give them a little bit of a reward at the end of getting their tails beaten.
Well, everything is made better with Domino's. That's absolutely right. For those just joining us right now on The Splash, we have Mike Ward, a board member with Michigan United Cerebral Palsy, joining us right now to talk about their foundation's annual Detroit Red Wings alumni game that is going to be taking place on March 15th. And this event has been going on for the past 23 years, and you guys have raised nearly $650,000. How have the funds from this event been used to benefit disabilities across Michigan? I believe you mentioned some of those facts before.
Yeah. So we operate programs such as Representative Payee, where we help individuals who have a disability who maybe can't manage their finances themselves, but they want to remain independent. So we help them and we become their payee. Or with benefits counseling, where many individuals with a disability are on Social Security, and so they have to be careful. If they want to work, they have to figure out how that will affect their benefits, and we offer that counseling. So those are advocacy areas. But we also help with education. We get involved with different boards of education or different PTAs, different groups who need assistance there. We do one-on-ones for IEPs through our resources at the agency. Assistive technology has become such an important aspect of people who live with a disability, because it can be something where they have to modify their wheelchair, or they have to modify something in their home. They need a piece of technology. They could be in need of laptop, hearing device, speech device, all kinds of things. And we're able to provide some of those things. And when we can't provide it, we are in the position now of being able to offer low or no interest loans for devices or technology. And we also have 2 ramp programs. One is a portable wheelchair ramp that is something that can be folded up, put in a car so that somebody can get out of their house, get to another location and have a ramp on both ends and not have to worry if there's an accessible ramp in the location where they're going. So those are just some of the programs that we have been involved in. We also are a referral to many other organizations that we partner with throughout the state. Because as a small organization, serving 2.3 million Michiganders who live with a disability, we can't do it all ourselves, but we have the access to resources that can.
Well, that is amazing to hear of everything you guys are doing. This event sounds like so much fun. I can't wait to see it. I got one more quick question for you before we let you go, Mike. What message would you like to share with attendees and donors who are supporting Michigan United Cerebral Palsy through this event?
So the biggest thing is our goal is to close the disability divide. And that divide can be anything from the distance somebody has to go in their wheelchair where there's not an accessible ramp, or it can be the distance between their education or their workforce, or whatever that gap is. Everything that we do when we're looking at the programs and services that we offer is, does it close the disability divide? Does it help people close that gap? And that's our deciding point. So come on out and celebrate this day with us. And if you make it there for the sled game, you are going to see some remarkable athletes at work on the ice. And come and meet them, come and support them, and throw a few bucks our way. That would be great.
Well, I can't wait to see it. I'm sure the rest of the Greater West Bloomfield community can't wait to see it either. Mike, thank you so much for joining us on The Splash today.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate this. This is one of the ways that we are able to spread the word. So thank you very much.
Well, we are happy to help spread the word of this incredible event. It sounds like so much fun. All of these amazing athletes out on the ice to help raise funds for cerebral palsy. But this is an incredible thing that's going to be taking place in just a few short weeks right here in the Greater West Bloomfield community. As we were saying earlier in the show, warm weather may be a cause for a little bit of extra caution out on our local icy waterways. Our own Kevin McIntosh is live out on the scene with a little more information. Kevin, I see we got the video working nicely. What have you got for us?
Thank you, Jake. So, yes, I'm outside where, yes, it is cold. Don't be fooled just because I don't have a coat on. It's a little bit warmer than usual, but if you look behind me, I'm on Orchard Lake, right around Pontiac Trail, and you can see the water looks frozen, but it may not be, which is why I actually spoke with West Bloomfield Fire Department Fire Marshal Byron Turnquist, who gave me a few tips on cautions to take when it comes to preparing for or even just being aware of ice during weather changes. Now, one thing he did and notified me on is yesterday we had an unusually warm day. 50 degrees was the high. In those temperatures, we want to stay completely off of the ice at that time. Don't go out there for recreational ice skating or ice fishing. He also informed me that just recently, the fire department had to kind of like shoo away a deer that was on and near the ice, and they had to get the deer away. So with that being said, Fire Marshal Byron Turnquist informed me, if you see an animal go out on the water, or if you have an animal that goes out on the water, don't try to rescue them. Call 911 or the fire department immediately for them to take care of it. Also inform me, in case that there is ice conditions for you to go out to do ice fishing or ice skating, make sure you go out with someone. And in case you do go out, take a rope, take a ladder, and things of that nature, just in case of those emergencies. If you see a person that just so happens to fall through some ice, then you can use things like a rope, a ladder, or even a paddle board. Those are some things that Byron Turnquist from West Bloomfield Fire Department informed me of. And just in case you do decide to go out on the ice by yourself, always, always, always let someone know where you are and how long you will be gone. That's most of the tips that we got. Like I said, if you look behind me, you may see some tracks out there on the water. Looks like someone paid a recent visit out here to Orchard Lake, but don't be fooled. If temperatures are above 32 degrees Fahrenheit, more than likely it is not frozen ice anymore, so please take precaution. Thank you again for that, Jake.
Very important information, Kevin. I won't leave you outside. Get inside, get warm. I mean, you're absolutely right. The temperatures were a lot warmer yesterday, but that can pose some issues if you do a lot of activities involving the ice. So it's very important to have this information and to stay safe as this ice begins to melt. Lots of other great stories and lots of other great events coming up right here in West Bloomfield, and we're going to get into them right after this break. Live, local, social, it's The Splash Live on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM.
We'll be right back with The Splash Live.
Good nutrition can help make sure you have enough iron, calcium, and vitamin C in your body, which can make it harder for lead to enter your bloodstream. Help protect your family from the harmful effects of lead. Wondering what to say to someone who's been sexually assaulted or abused?
I believe you. I'm so sorry this happened.
It's not your fault.
Confidential and anonymous help is available at the Michigan Sexual Assault Hotline. Connect with us 24/7. Call 855-VOICES-4 or text 1-866-238-1454 for help. Learn more at michigan.gov/voices4.
Here you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Gina Gregory, president of the Greater West Bloomfield Historical Society. I'm excited that Civic Center TV has reached 1 million views on YouTube. Congratulations. That's just terrific. We appreciate everything Civic Center does for the Greater West Bloomfield Historical Society and the community. For us, they promote and highlight our events. It's awesome to have them available 24/7 on YouTube. I'm Gina Gregory and proud to be one in a million.
And now, back to The Splash, live.
Live, local, social, it's The Splash Live on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. I'm your host, Jake Schaff, going over all of the biggest news and events from right here in Greater West Bloomfield. It's always important to understand what goes in to helping to make a community like Greater West Bloomfield run and to become even better as time goes on. And that is all done by the help of their master plan. And just recently, there were some important updates that were made to West Bloomfield's master plan. And here to tell us more about those updates, we have the senior principal planner for McKenna, Brian Kesey, joining us right now on The Splash. Brian, great to have you with us.
Good morning, Jake. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Glad to have you with us and interested to get into this conversation. What can you tell us about what this master plan is? What is the master plan and why is it necessary?
Yeah, the master plan is a document for the township that talks about specifically land use policy and shapes the vision for what you want to see in terms of residential uses, commercial uses, industrial where it makes sense, things like that. So we're developing policy for the township that can eventually be turned into regulation so that we can hopefully encourage the development that the township is seeking in the future.
Interesting. And you gather all this information from talking to the residents of the community. And what have been some of the things that the residents have wanted to see here in Greater West Bloomfield?
Yeah, so we completed about the end of 2024 an online survey and collected responses from residents, business owners, property owners, and even those that just work in the community and live elsewhere. We've heard a variety of things relating to more housing options, a concern for needing to develop some affordable options so that people can move to the township and continue their lives in the township. We've heard a lot of demand for additional restaurants and activity centers along Orchard Lake. And amenities for families with younger children. So those are the big topics. I'd also say that one of the things that we learned is the preservation of natural resources, one of the things that drives people to the township and continues to be. And so everybody almost across the board really placed an emphasis on the importance of maintaining that moving forward as we continue to develop and add more services.
Of course, it's always a great priority to keep those natural resources safe. And gathering all of this information, how does the collected info impact how this master plan is formed for West Bloomfield?
Yeah, we will summarize all the feedback that we have gotten to date. We still are doing some individual interviews with, we're planning to meet with the Chamber of Commerce, the Greater West Bloomfield Faith Alliance. So we still have some work to do, but we will be gathering and summarizing all of the comments where there are trends that we can incorporate into the plan. In terms of goals and objectives, we will certainly do that.
Joining us right now on The Splash, we have Brian Kesey, the Senior Principal Planner of McKenna, talking about the master plan process with West Bloomfield and what it's like to be gathering this information from the residents and executing it properly to the city. And you're also working with a lot of big developers here in West Bloomfield. How does that factor in with working with township officials on constructing the master plan, in working with these big developers?
Yeah, we have had some individual interviews with the residential development companies that are frequently doing work within the township and trying to understand what is working, what is slowing them down in the development process, and trying to get a better understanding of how we as the township can improve processes to help support some of the housing options that we need and anticipate. And working with them to communicate some of the amenities that the township, the boards and planning commission expect when those projects come before the township for approval.
And in working with some of these big developers like Apex Apartments and Town Court Apartments on Orchard Lake Road, what might that lead to as we see in the future for developments?
Those projects that are already completed are good models for the amenities that we hope to see in that particular area, especially along Orchard Lake. The township already includes some requirements for points of interest, things like public art, benches, pedestrian amenities, things like that we anticipate. We anticipate those to be incorporated into additional developments as they come online.
Interesting. And one of the other big things that you guys are talking about a lot, or the Planning Commission has discussed a lot, is an Orchard Lake corridor in the town center district. How critical is that area to the future of township planning, would you say?
I think it's already been identified as the heart, if you will, of activity within the township, and will continue to need to be. We've spoken with the Planning Commission, and several of those commissioners felt it very important for us to develop some activity nodes along that corridor to encourage people within the township and even outside of the township to come visit and spend time.
That's absolutely right. You want to make sure you bring everyone right here to Greater West Bloomfield and enjoy everything that it has to offer. Now, there is a timeline in place with the master plan. How is it looking right now, and how would you say you guys are in terms of keeping that pace right now?
Yeah, so when we started this project, it was approximately a 12-month timeline from initiation to when we hope to have the plan adopted. I mentioned we finished up the online engagement at the end of the year, finishing up some of these individual interviews to collect public feedback, and then we'll start drafting over the next couple months. So our hope is to have a draft of the plan to the Planning Commission in late April, maybe early May. At that point in time, we'll make some adjustments. We'll talk about specifics that need to be incorporated into the plan. And then we'll follow the state guidelines for publishing notice and requesting additional feedback from the public. So once the Planning Commission sees the draft and are happy with it, they will make a recommendation to the Township Board to send that out for public comment. And then there's a 63-day, so about a 2-month period of time where the township is open to collect feedback from the public. So we hope that the residents, business owners all continue to do that and monitor that plan and provide us some feedback on if we have hit the mark and what other things that we should consider before the plan goes to final adoption. So that would put us on pace later this fall to formally adopt the full plan.
All right, great to hear about all of these updates. And how can the residents of West Bloomfield continue to get involved in helping with this master plan and helping you guys along?
Yeah, we have a website. It's www.westbloomfieldplans.com. You can also connect to that website through the Planning Department page on West Bloomfield Township's website. We are posting updates to the schedule, next steps, draft text as it will become available will go onto that website. So that is our hub for information for the plan.
All right, great information to have out there. Brian, any additional information you could provide for us before we let you go?
No, we just encourage our residents to keep an eye on the plan, provide feedback, however you feel is appropriate. We do have contact information on that website, and we're happy to listen.
All right, well, we can't wait to see what's to come in the next few months right here in West Bloomfield. Brian, thank you so much for your time today on The Splash.
Thank you for having me, Jake.
Appreciate getting this information from Brian, as well as getting some insight on what the future really looks like for Greater West Bloomfield. As a reminder for everyone watching on Civic Center TV right now, you can check out all of our previous interviews with guests and our meetings and everything else you can see right here in West Bloomfield just by scanning the QR code on your screen right now, or you can just go to civiccentertv.com to get access to all of our previous interviews and events. But all these great resources available right at your fingertips. Big thank you to Brian for coming by and for explaining all of these great things with the master plan. As the weather continues to start to get a little warmer, we're not completely out of the woods just yet, as we might still be expecting some cold temperatures in the next few weeks and possibly a lot of snow. But thankfully, West Bloomfield Parks has a great service to help get some of the older residents of the community around town. I recently had the chance to take a ride on their transit system to learn just what they do for the Greater West Bloomfield community.
Yes, it's very handy, it's very nice. And for some people who can't come by their car to here, they can even pick them up at home. Luckily, I don't need that yet. I can drive my car here to the Parks and Rec and then use for longer ride the bus. You go to different places, and it's nice to see the environment not from your driver's seat, but from the passenger seat. And so I think the drivers are really good, and groups of people are very nice. So yeah, I like to use this transportation.
It's very important, and it's been excellent because a lot of communities don't have services for their seniors the way West Bloomfield has, that they will arrange all kinds of trips and programs at the center. And they'll even pick you up to take you there. So it's been great.
How beneficial would you say these services are to the city of West Bloomfield?
We provide freedom and independence for those that, for one reason or another, cannot drive and have lost the ability to independently maneuver throughout the township. It enables people to stay in their homes. It enables people to live an independent life. Overwhelmingly, our support has been positive from our residents. We actually have one that is currently looking for assisted living and refuses to leave the township because of us, and that's a good feeling.
I know they're very appreciative of what we do. We enable them to do things they may not ordinarily get out to do. Simple things like going to the grocery store, going to the drugstore, the bank. Folks may not be able to get out as readily as they are with us. We make it a lot easier, hopefully.
And sometimes it's more than just simple trips to the grocery store, as these seniors can get the chance to witness once-in-a-lifetime opportunities like a live performance from the Detroit Symphony Orchestra.
It's very gratifying. Everybody on the ride home start talking about how good the performance is, how much they enjoy it. And again, it may be something they wouldn't normally do. It's very gratifying when I drop them off at the end of a show. Most of the folks thank me, they smile, they're real happy to get out, and whether it's winter, summer, and it's very gratifying.
Well, I really appreciate West Bloomfield Parks allowing me to take a ride on the transit system and to get an up-close look at this incredible service that they offer to the community, and as well as seeing a fantastic show right in Detroit, a wonderful showcase of Broadway love songs from the Detroit Symphony Orchestra. Beautiful performance, and once again, I thank West Bloomfield Parks for allowing me to come by and be part of this experience with them. Here in West Bloomfield, everyone is still reeling from the success of the 2025 Black Expo, which shined a light on Black-owned businesses, creativity, and culture. Several vendors were there at the event, among them a local children's book author using her stories to inspire young readers. Civic Center TV's Kevin McIntosh was there to learn more about her journey and the impact on the expo.
Kevin McIntosh, Civic Center TV, here at the Orchard Mall for the West Bloomfield 2025 Black Expo. Right now, I'm here with a local author, Indea Canty. Thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So you have some beautiful, very vibrant books right here that you are the author of. Can you just talk about a little bit about your inspiration to being an author?
Yes. So I am the author of The Magical Shell and I See God. I write children's books that inspire outdoor play, literacy, self-confidence, and imagination. I created my books out of a need for more adventure, more interesting storylines, more diverse representation, inspired by my daughter, who is now 7 years old.
Beautiful. And you have actual reading books here. You have coloring books here. Can you just talk about the process to actually making your book?
The process of making the book was actually very easy. The storylines came to me within a day. I wrote them down, and I ended up having a story. I self-published all of my books under my own company called 100-Fold Return Publishing. And through this process, I've been able to just connect with so many different businesses, not only locally and within West Bloomfield, but also in Detroit and Pontiac and Macomb.
So why do you feel like it's important to not only have books that are made and written by Black authors, but also have books that highlight Black characters as well?
Yes. So there's so many different styles and cultures within the Black culture that I feel like a lot of times just don't get the recognition that it needs. So this wonderful boy, Johnny and the Magical Shell, he's actually from Ghana. And then I have different representation in I See God, some red hair. I just feel like we all need to be seen within the books that we read.
Perfect, perfect. Now just talk about being here, a part of the Black Expo, right? You're here, you're representing your books, you want them to be out. Just talk about why it's important for you to even be here representing your books today.
It's always important to represent my own business, for one, but I actually have enjoyed connecting with the other businesses here. I've enjoyed being able to meet people on the West Bloomfield Township, committee, all of these different people that have embraced my business and who have embraced me and everything that I'm working to do within our children.
Do you have any words of wisdom, motivation for anybody who may be an inspiring author and want to do something like this but may not know where to start?
Just do it. Write the story. Just write the story. There's so many people that want to be authors and aspire to be authors. Just write the story. And then once you write the story, everything else will fall in place. Just walk by faith. That's all I did. I had no idea how to do what I was doing. I just wrote the story, and then it led me into this journey where it's just been the most rewarding journey.
Perfect. Great story, and great stories told and illustrated right here in these books locally at the Black Expo 2025 at the Orchard Mall. I'm Kevin McIntosh, Civic Center TV.
Big thank you to Kevin for going out and getting that story. A powerful message on representation, creativity, and following your dreams. The 2025 Black Expo continues to bring the community together, celebrating culture and entrepreneurship. For more on this and other stories, visit civiccentertv.com and click the On Demand tab to find out more. Lots of other great stories to get into right after this quick break. Live, local, social, it's The Splash Live on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM.
We'll be right back with The Splash Live. This is Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. On cable and the radio. On the web too, and on social media. Civic Center TV, television that's close to home.
Hi, I'm Chris Fry, Park Superintendent, West Bloomfield Parks. Congratulations, Civic Center TV, on 1 million views on YouTube. Thank you for all you do in the community, and thank you for having me on The Splash throughout the season to talk about activities out in the parks. Chris Fry, proud to be 1 in a million.
And now, back to The Splash, live.
Live, local, social, it's The Splash Live on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. I'm your host, Jake Sheff, going over all of the biggest news and events from right here in Greater West Bloomfield. Nominations are currently open for the 2025 West Bloomfield Youth Assistance Youth Recognition Awards, a great way to showcase the talents of some of the younger members here in our community. And here to tell us some more about these nominations, we have Kelly Heyer, the Executive Director of West Bloomfield Parks, joining us right now on The Splash. Kelly, good morning.
Good morning, Jake.
Always glad to have you on, always happy to talk with you. What can you tell us about the purpose of the West Bloomfield Youth Assistant Awards that are taking place this year?
Sure. So as my role here as Executive Director of West Bloomfield Parks, I serve on the West Bloomfield Youth Assistance Committee, and it's an honor to serve as chairperson. I've been involved with Oakland County Youth Assistance for probably 20 years now, and it's a very near and dear program to me. As far as the Youth Recognition Awards, every community does their award ceremony a little differently. And in West Bloomfield, we host annually in May at the West Bloomfield Middle School. But it's important to get the information out now because the program nominations do close in 1 month. So they do close on March 26th. And this awards program is a way for anybody in West Bloomfield to recognize a youth, it can be an elementary, middle schooler, or high schooler, to recognize them for doing good work. There is no required GPA, but the requirement is they have to be doing a good community service. So something good for their neighbor, something good for their school or church or another community group, anything that is helping out an individual or a group of people and for the betterment. And this is a way for us to highlight kids doing great work in West Bloomfield.
That's right, because the kids are doing just as many great things as the adults are doing right now. What are some of the things that you've seen in the past with the Youth Recognition Awards that have been honored by the people of West Bloomfield?
A couple of stories that come to mind are helping neighbors. So on occasion, I've seen where a student will be helping out their neighbor with their leaves or something in their yard. So that is common. I've seen different groups nominated for doing good work in their schools. So it could be a group working with kids with disabilities and they put on a program or an opportunity. I've seen nominations come forward about a student being a good helper in their classroom, or some even personal achievements where perhaps the student was struggling and they've overcome a challenge in their life and they've showed that they've done an improvement on reading or been able to accomplish something for their school that's good for their classroom. And some of these stories are so personal over the years that the student has been highlighted as showing their personality and been able to, sometimes they're just really talented at doing something or able to put together a really cool event. And this is a way for their students or their teachers, to nominate and recognize their talents.
That is so fascinating to hear about some of the great ideas that these kids have had over the years. And I think you just touched on it a little bit right there, but why is it so important to be recognizing young people here in the community for their contributions?
Well, the first thing I stated in regards to the grade point average, a lot of the times I've heard throughout scholarship applications or any kind of recognition program that the students must have some kind of grade GPA average. And for this recognition program, it is truly, we're recognizing the kids for their extraordinary work, that there is no academic requirement. And for some kids, school, they struggle, and school is not going to be something that they excel at. But they have good character, they have goodwill for the community, and that care and that passion is what is going to drive them to be successful adults. And we think it's important to be able to give kids an opportunity to be showcased that way, because perhaps academically they'll never have an opportunity to be on the honor roll or achieve something at that level. And this is a way for us to recognize all kids for doing good things, because as we know as adults, Jake, we want them to be successful, civic-minded people when they grow up and they choose the community that they live in. And it's important that they are recognized as kids, because they're always going to remember that moment.
That's absolutely right. These are such powerful moments that are going to be coming from some of the younger members here in the community. Really appreciate hearing about these awards. We are running short on time. I do have one more question for you, Kelly. How can nominations for this year's awards be submitted?
It's all digital. So go to our website at wbyouthassistance.org, and we make it easy on the homepage. There's a clickable link. And so nominators, you can check that out now. And you can even just read through the requirements that we'll ask on the Google form. Or if you're ready to submit your nomination, obviously you can complete that form right now as well. But we have one more month. So today is February 26th. They're due March 26th. And the banquet is held at the middle school May 1st. So plenty of time to submit the nominations, and the event is several months out still.
All right, well, we can't wait to see what's going to come from these awards coming up very, very soon. Actually, one more very, very quick question, just 30 seconds, from a different angle, for a different topic. Has there been any updates on the recent new Connect building that's going to be coming very, very soon here in West Bloomfield?
Great question. And yes, we're making a lot of administrative progress. We have hired an architect firm to work on the project, and our civil engineer award will be talked about tonight at the Park Commission meeting. And so those are two big contractors that we need in place to complete our design team. And the next step will be hiring a construction manager at risk, and that is slated for April.
All right, well, lots of exciting things coming up right here in West Bloomfield. Kelly, we thank you so much for joining us today on The Splash Live.
You're welcome. Have a great day.
Absolutely. You have a great day as well. So many great things here in the greater West Bloomfield community, but that is going to do it for us today here on the Splash Live. I want to say a big thank you to all of our guests for stopping by, for Kevin McIntosh, for all of his great work out in the field today, for Tyler Keefe and Calvin Brown at Master Control. I've been your host, Jake Schaff. Live, local, social, it's the Splash Live on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM.